All right, so have your feet underneath your knees. And make sure your sitting bones are kind of even on the chair. So just notice if you're tending to lean to one side or the other. See if you can get your weight even on your left and right sitting bones. And then notice where your shoulders are relative to your hips. Are your shoulders forward? Are you kind of rounded in your back? Can you kind of bring your shoulder blades back and down a little bit without really engaging them strongly? Just kind of bring them down a little bit and let your shoulders be over your hips. And then think about your head like a water balloon perched on top of your shoulders so you can let go of all that tension in your neck muscles. And then if it's comfortable to close your eyes, I'll invite you to do that. And if closing your eyes does not feel comfortable, just drop your gaze down at the floor. This gives you the opportunity to bring your attention inside your own body. So we're very visual creatures. Human beings are very visual. So if you see something, your attention is going to go there. So in order to become present, to become conscious, it's important to block out those visual distractions. And then do a little investigation into the rest of your body. Notice if you're holding tension somewhere, hands or feet, your legs or arms, your neck or shoulders, your back, your belly, your hips, any place that you might be holding some tension that you're just not aware of. And once you identify areas of tension, see if you can send your breath to those parts of your body. So imagine as you breathe in, you're sending the breath right to those tense parts of your body. And as you breathe out, that's kind of washing out the tension. So you're breathing in and bringing relaxation into that part of your body. And as you breathe out, you're letting go of any tension there. And what can be helpful is to deepen the breath. So allow the breath to get a little bit longer and slower. And again, just imagining the breath is washing away the tension, no matter where you're holding. And as you inhale, see if you can feel movement in your belly. Feel movement in your rib cage, in your shoulders, your upper back, your chest. As you breathe in, see where you feel expansion. And as you breathe out, see where you feel a gentle contraction. So breathing in, the body expands. And breathing out, the body contracts. Breathing in, the body expands. Breathing out, the body contracts. And as you're releasing tension from your physical body and deepening your breathing, notice what's happening in your mind. Notice thoughts. Notice distractions. Our minds are always distracted. May be distracted by things going on in the room or in the building. They may be distracted by thinking about where you've been and what you've done, or where you're going to go and what you're going to do. And the best way to anchor the mind in the present moment is to keep drawing your awareness back to your breath. So every time you notice a thought or a distraction, gently return your attention to your breathing. Breathing in and breathing out. Expanding as you inhale and gently contracting as you exhale. Every time your mind becomes distracted, call your attention back to your breath. Breathing in and expanding, breathing out and gently contracting. And take one more full deep breath in, and as you exhale, let that breath go with a sigh. And just go back to your natural breath. So let your body breathe the way it normally does. And then you can let your eyes gently open. And then we'll take your hands from your lap and we'll start doing a little bit of movement for those fingers. Hearing a lot of noise out there this morning. People having crunchy, crackly fingers this morning. Yeah, the weather is not so helpful for some of those achy little joints, huh? All right, and then let's extend the arms and press like you're saying stop, and then bring the fingers down. So up and down. Wrists can also be pretty crackly and crunchy. So little noises in there. And I always say noise without pain is generally okay. It's just the way the body is sometimes. And then we'll start to circle around. Noise with pain, that requires a little office visit, I think. And then we'll reverse direction. So just get some movement in those wrists. Let's get the elbows involved now. So just extend your arms with your palms up, and we're just going to bend and tap. So breathe in, breathe out. See if you can keep your upper arms lifted a bit without lifting this way with your shoulders, right? You want to have the upper arms lifted with other shoulder muscles here. Relax your neck and your jaw. And then the next time you tap your shoulders, we're going to go up overhead. So we're just going to work those shoulders a little bit. So just up and down. Just real easy. We're starting real easy this morning. If you've only got one wing that's working this morning, just use that one wing. If you got two wings that are working, go for it. Okay, just a couple more. Good. And the next time your hands are on your shoulders, let's hold them here, and we're just going to do some little circles with the elbows. So we're creating a different kind of movement in the shoulders. Shoulder joints are super mobile. Got all kinds of range here. If you don't use all your range, you will only have access to what you use. So you'll lose a bunch. Let's switch direction. And again, I'll just note that shoulders can be noisy. So if your shoulders are noisy, that's generally going to be okay, as long as you don't have pain. Okay. And then let's relax that. We're going to take the right arm and bring the fingers down toward the floor and go behind you as far as you can. Squeeze that shoulder blade. And then we're going to come up and to the left and go all the way back down. Squeeze the shoulder blade. So breathe in, breathe out. So this first part, we're just moving the arm, right? So resist the urge to twist your body. If you've got some limitation in your shoulder joint, you may be compensating by turning your body, right? So I can't get my arm over here, so I'm going to twist my body. But what happens if I ask just the shoulder joint to do the work? And if you can't get the arm up overhead, just go out in front. Okay, one more time up and down. So again, these are just some different movements for the shoulder joint. Let's let that arm rest, and we're going to take the other arm. Same thing. So down, squeeze the shoulder blade on that side, and then go up and to the right. Okay, so there's a little bit of a diagonal here. And see if you can keep your body still and let the shoulder do all the work. Right? Breathe in, breathe out. Good. Don't forget to squeeze that shoulder blade when you come back. Excellent. Two more. Just this single arm. One more. Last one. Good. Okay, and then we're going to take both arms and we're going to push out. And as you push out, round through your upper back. So like you're really pushing, pushing, pushing. And then we're going to pull back and squeeze the shoulder blades together. So push and round and pull and lengthen the back, the front of the body rather. So breathing in and breathing out. Now it doesn't matter when you inhale and when you exhale. I find it easier to inhale when I pull the arms back because I have more space in the front. And I find it easier to exhale when I come forward, but that's completely up to you. Okay. So now, next time you come forward, hold here for just a minute. And then come back, and we're going to hold here for just a minute. Breathing in, breathing out. Go forward again. We're rounding for just a minute. Breathing in, breathing out. Pulling back. Just a minute. Breathing in, breathing out. And then relax all of that down. Roll your shoulders forward, up, back, and down a little bit. Okay. And now let's do some static stretching. So bring your right arm forward with your fingers up. We're going to take all 4 of those fingers, or however many you have on that hand, and pull back. Some people might have more or less. I don't know. So we're just going to pull back. Now the straighter your elbow is, the more of a stretch you're going to feel beyond that elbow joint up into the upper arm. If your arm is way up here, drop it down below your shoulder, right? So when you come up here, what tends to happen is this shoulder hikes up. So we want to keep that shoulder down a little bit. So breathe in, breathe out. Good. So you can feel that stretch in there. If it feels like too much at any time, you can give a little bend to the elbow. That'll lessen the intensity of the stretch. Good, and then we'll release that and we'll bring the fingers down toward the floor. Now press on the back of your hand, not on your fingers, but on the back of your hand, right up where all those bones are here. The metacarpal bones. So again, the elbow, if it's straight, you're going to get a little more of a stretch up above the elbow itself. If it's bent, you'll get a little more through the wrist and the forearm. So breathe in, breathe out. Good. And then we'll go to the other side. So extend fingers, pull them all back. You don't want to pull your thumb back. So that's the one thing you want to just let your thumb kind of relax there a little bit. Your thumb has way more mobility than your fingers, so you can tend to overstretch that a little bit if you try and stretch it like the fingers. Thumb needs its own little set of stretches. Breathing in, breathing out. So straight elbow gives you more of a stretch above the elbow. Bent elbow gives you more of a stretch below the elbow. And you might notice that on one arm you have a different sense of stretch than on the other. And then release that. Bring the fingers down toward the floor and press on the back of your hand. Breathing in, breathing out. If your arm is way up here, drop it down below your shoulder. See all those shoulders just go right down there. Breathe in, breathe out. Good. Couple more breaths. Excellent. And then we'll release that and just sort of circle the wrists around. Okay, let's take both hands together. And you're going to keep your shoulders down. Now imagine you're reading a book. So you open your book like this toward your face, right? So you're looking at your book, and now you're going to break the spine of the book, right? So the spine of the book is where your little fingers are. You're going to break the spine of your book and bring the backs of your hands together and your fingers in toward your chest and then down toward the floor. And then out in front, come up and around and close your book, right? Let's try that again. This time, see if you can breathe while we're doing it, right? When we're learning something new, we tend to hold our breath, right? It's like, I gotta listen with every cell in my body, so stop breathing. Okay, so open your book, and we're gonna break the binding of the book. Bring the fingers in, down, around, and up. And do it with a little flourish now. So get all the way up into your shoulder as you make this movement, right? So we're lifting the elbows, diving down with the hands, bringing the hands up. So we're making this like this big production. Excellent. This is an exercise that I give to my computer people who work on computers all day, and their wrists get sore and their arms and hands get sore. This is a great way to really gently wake up those muscles and all of those joints, get them moving. Everybody's doing great. You're all breathing because you're all still seated, which is good. Next time your palms come together, hold here. All right. So let's try showing somebody else the book. So we're going to bring the palms away, right? So showing somebody else the book. And now we're going to bring the fingers forward, backs of the hands together, down, in, up, and back, right? So now we'll do that again with breath. Show your book, forward, down, in, up, and around. And just keep going, right? So breathe, smooth and easy breaths. And the more flourish you can add to this, the more movement you get in your elbows and your shoulders. The more breath you can use, the easier this is for the nervous system, right? So your nervous system interprets what's easy and what's challenging by what your breath is doing. If your breath is choppy or you're holding your breath, your nervous system goes, uh-oh, something's going on. I better be on high alert. Okay, next time your palms are together, so you've got your book closed, we're going to hold here. Great. And now we're going to do both. So we're going to first open the book to ourselves, down, around, back, up, and closed, and then show the book forward, down, around. And you don't have to breathe the first few times we do this. So toward you, and then out, because this is accessing a different part of your brain right now. We're asking the brain to do something that's a little different. Okay, so show your book and then read your book. Everybody looks like they got this, right? So now can you breathe while you're doing it? There. Yeah. All right. And see if you can go a little faster. All right. And keep breathing. Good. Couple more. Great. And the next time your palms are together, let's call it good. Shake everything out. Let your hands rest on your lap. Maybe close your eyes or drop your gaze for a moment and just bring all of your awareness into your hands and fingers, your wrists, your forearms, your elbows, your shoulders, the upper arms, lower arms, your neck. Just notice what you're aware of. Maybe you weren't aware of the sensations that your arms can feel or your wrists can feel, and now you are. And let your eyes gently open. All right. So let's shift gears to the lower part of the body. So extend your right leg, have your heel on the floor. Now with that right leg extended, engage these muscles here in the upper part of your leg. These are your quadriceps muscles, your thigh muscles. We're going to keep those muscles active and squeeze and extend the toes. So if you've got your shoes off and your foot is bare, as you extend your toes, see if you can spread them wide, like you can see daylight between your toes. If you have your socks on, you'll be fighting a little bit against your socks, and that's okay. If you have your shoes on, you're not going to get too much of this, but do what's most comfortable for you. So if having your shoe on is most comfortable, think about trying this at home without your shoe on. So breathe in, breathe out, and then we'll start to point and flex the foot at the ankle, right? So I didn't mention noise. Did anybody have noisy toes? Yeah, right? How about noisy ankles? Got noisy ankles? Yeah. Snap, crackle, pop. So again, pretty normal that we're going to have some of this here. Now you can tap your heel and tap your toe. You can keep your foot lifted completely, or if it's too much, you can keep your heel on the floor and point and flex that way. And then we'll start to circle. So same thing, heel on the floor, heel lifted, whatever feels okay. Ankle joint is pretty flexible, but it's also pretty strong because your ankle has to support your entire body weight every time you take a step. Reverse direction if you didn't already. Okay, and then put that heel on the floor. Sitting right near the front edge of your chair, you're going to have your hands right alongside your body. Just kind of press down a little bit into your chair so that gets your spine nice and tall and reminds you that your shoulders should be over your hips, not forward like this. And engage your belly muscles as you gently bend your knee, pull that heel under the chair, and then extend. Once again, you can keep your foot lifted if you have the strength in your quadriceps muscles to do that, or you can tap, so you can put your toes down and then your heel down, or you could even slide. Breathing in, breathing out. Okay. Next time you have your foot under your chair, let's stretch the bottoms of the toes. So slide your foot back. See if you can get all of your toes on the floor, right? So the little toes tend to want to ride up on the toe next to it. See if you can get out there and get that little toe stretching. And then just press down and relax. And press down and relax. So as you're doing this, you see your knee moving a little bit, right? You might be feeling this in the knee, you might be feeling it in the leg, you might be feeling it just in the toes. Some people are going to feel it in all kinds of different places. So keep breathing. Good. Okay, and then we're going to come right up over the top of the toes, and we're going to stretch the top of the foot now. So same thing, we've got this part of the foot on the floor. Now if you've got your sneaker under your chair or your shoe under your chair and you want to put your foot on it, that could provide a little bit of cushioning for the top of your foot, because the top of the foot is pretty bony. There's not a lot of meat there. So as you're pressing, see if you can press more into the big toe side so that you feel it a little more here on the front part of the shin rather than on the outside of the shin. So we're pressing and releasing just like we did when the bottom of the toes were getting stretched. And breathing in, breathing out. Excellent. Okay. And then relax that, extend the leg rather, and kind of circle the foot around. And then we're going to go right to the other side. So extend your left, squeeze and extend the toes. So squeeze and extend the toes. Now as you extend the toes on this foot, again, if you've got bare foot, look down, see if you can see some daylight in between the toes. How many of you have been doing toe exercises at home? Awesome. Keep working on it. Okay, and then we'll start to point and flex the foot. Yeah. These exercises, they seem very simple. They are very simple, to be honest. But they can be really effective for things like foot cramps. So if you tend to have foot cramps or lower leg cramps, just doing these exercises can help. This is super important for your balance. This is one of the main reasons why I enjoy these kinds of movements with the feet, because it re-educates your foot how to work properly. And let's start to circle around at the ankle. So just like the rest of your body, I was saying with your shoulder, right? If you don't do all the movements that your shoulder can do, you're going to be limited to just the ones you do, and you're going to lose the ones you don't do. In reverse direction. Same thing with your feet. If you don't use all of the different mechanisms in your feet, you'll be limited to what you do use, and you'll lose the others. The good news is you can always regain some of it. Maybe not all of it, but you can always regain some of it. And then bring that heel down to the floor. Hands right alongside your hips. Once again, just press down a little bit so that you remind your shoulders to stay above your hips. Pull your belly in a little bit, and then we're going to bend and extend. Bend and extend. So this can be a complete lift of the leg like this, or you can tap. You can rest your heel, rest your toes, or you can slide. If you have a sneaker on, sliding probably isn't a real good option. If you have a sock on, Carrie will be very happy that your little area will be clean when you're done. Of course, you might have to throw your socks out. And the next time you bend your knee, let's bring the bottom of the toes stretched. So we're just going to slide that foot back a little bit, get that little toe on the floor. So if it's hanging out next to its neighbor, see if you can get it on the floor. And then we're going to press down and release. And press down and release. So when we're stretching the bottom of the foot, you want to have a little more pressure on the little toe side, because that's the part that doesn't normally get a stretch. Conversely, when we stretch the top of the foot, which we'll be doing in a moment, we put a little more pressure on the big toe side, because we don't generally get a good enough stretch on the inside or the front part of the shin. And the shin is doing an awful lot of work. The muscles in the front of that lower leg are doing a lot of work trying to compensate and work with the muscles in the back of the leg, which are much, much bigger. Okay. And then we're going to go up and over the top of the toes. And if you need to bring your foot underneath a little bit more, if you need to find your sneaker or your shoe under there to get that stretch, go ahead and do that. We're going to push down and release. And once again, a little more pressure on the big toe side, so you're getting that right along the shin bone there. The shin bone, otherwise known as the coffee table bone. You know what I mean, right? You hit the coffee table with that bone every time. Good. A couple more times. Great. Okay, and then we'll release that leg. Just kind of work those toes a little bit. All right, place both feet on the floor under your knees and then spread them out or move them apart a little bit. So you got a little space there. So we're going to go right to some toe mobility. Again, toe mobility, toe independence is important for balance. So if you're having any issues with balance or you're having any foot problems, right? So plantar fasciitis, bunions, corns and calluses. Corns and calluses are a sign that the wear is a little bit off. It's how you're using your foot that's a little bit off. So look down at your feet and look at all those toes. Now, notice if they're all bunched together. Pretty ugly. No way. No way. Feet are remarkable. Feet are remarkable. So look and notice if your toes are some of them like crossing over or under. Toe kind of goes under, right? And for other people, the big toe kind of goes in, right? Yeah. Okay. So now see if you can lift all your toes up and keep the rest of your foot on the floor. And spread your toes out nice and wide. And then see if one at a time, starting at your baby toe, if you can start to lower each toe to the floor, one at a time. Okay. Relax your toes. All right. Look at them again. Sometimes they just need a little encouragement. So looking at your toes can be super helpful. So raise all your toes up. Breathe. Spread your toes wide. And then one at a time, see if you can get the baby toes and then the next ones, and take your time. Notice which ones kind of go together, right? Don't say all of them. 4 of them, 4 out of 5. Okay. And relax the toes. Okay. How many of you had a really hard time getting your toes to work independently like that? So nobody. So you all did great. You all did great. Okay, so now raise all your toes. And keep the rest of your foot on the floor. And we're just going to put the big toes down. So keep all the little toes up. Press the big toes down and then lift. Press down and lift. So you can do these in your shoes. Just do the best you can with your shoes. You can do them in your socks. The best way to do these exercises is barefoot. So if you do them at home barefoot, that's the way to do it. Breathing in, breathing out. How's it going there with the big toes? This is harder. This is harder. Oh, yeah, the others are like, hey, where are you going? I'm coming too. Hang on a minute. Okay, next time you lift your big toes, hold them up so you got all the toes lifted, yeah? Okay, keep the big toes up. Press all the little toes down. And then lift them all up and press them all down. So we'll keep going. Now, no fair doing this, right? Like bringing your knees out, right? So it's not a knee exercise, you guys. It's a toe exercise. Notice your breath or lack of breath, right? So much easier doing it this way than the big toes, right? No. Maybe. Maybe. Okay. Lift them all up and then lower them all down. Let's take a moment. So if you want to close your eyes or just drop your gaze, just take a moment and bring your awareness into your toes. See if you can feel or sense each of your toes. And compare that sort of to how you normally think of your toes. And then you can open your eyes. So doing these little exercises just brings a little more awareness into the fact that those toes are separate little entities on the bottoms of your legs, right? They're not just this one big thing that gets jammed into a shoe. Let's give this another little test here. So spread your toes out and then place them all down. And now keep all your little toes on the floor and raise just your big toes and lower them. And raise and lower. So keep going, just raising and lowering. Now you might notice that your hands are trying to instruct your feet. Yeah? You might notice that your jaw is getting tight. Your breath is a little shallow. Your brain is starting to smoke. Because this is just kind of weird. Why do I need to do this? Okay, and then lower those down. Whew, relax your feet for a little bit. So was it easier to lift your big toes from the floor or lower your big toes to the floor? Lift. Yeah. Some people lift, some people lower, some people neither. And that's okay. So now keeping the big toes on the floor, we're going to lift all the other toes. And then lower. And not by doing this with your knees. Yeah, I know. It's so much easier with the knees, isn't it? It is. So lift and lower. Lift and lower. Again, super simple exercises, I know, but so important because everything upstream from your feet is affected by your feet. So if your toes aren't moving independently, if you're having pain in your feet, that's going to translate to your gait. That's going to affect your knees, it's going to affect your hips, your back, could even affect your neck. Breathing in, breathing out. Everybody's cruising on this one, right? Just cruising. Okay, and then relax. Yeah, take a breath. So was it easier to lift your little toes from the floor or lower your little toes to the floor? Lower. Okay, so most people, I heard most people say lower, but there could be a few lifts in there, right? So isn't that interesting? You know, it's always interesting to just kind of notice these things. Okay, so let's do this. Let's lift all the toes. Spread them nice and wide. And now we're going to go after the big toe and the baby toe. So place the big toe on the floor, or big toes if you have to, and then place your baby toes on the floor, but not the middle toes. Yeah, no. And then relax all that. Again, watch, your hands are probably instructing, right? Do it this way. Raise all your toes, spread them out nice and wide, and then press just your big toes down and just your baby toes down. Relax that. We'll do that one more time. So this time, let's see if we can relax into the breath first. Lift all your toes, keep breathing. Spread your toes, keep breathing. And then just try big toe and baby toe on the left, on the right. Keep breathing. Keep those middle toes lifted. And relax everything. Good. Bring your feet a little closer together and just come up on your toes and then on your heels. Toes and heels. Good. All right. So that last one, big toe down, little toe down. Is that the most difficult one? Yes. And part of that is because we're asking the toes to really work independently. See, when we move toes together, like when we were playing the piano, that's what, you know, when you place all the toes down like you're playing the piano, at least you're going sequentially with your toes. This way, we've got one toe on the inside, one toe on the outside, and we're trying to lift those middle toes. Did anybody also find that that was challenging mentally to try and get that connection? Yeah, because that's not a movement that we typically make. One of the reasons why that particular movement, the big toe and the little toe, is important is because it strengthens the arches in the feet, right? And you have, we often think of just this arch, right? The one here from the big toe to the heel. But you've got a couple of arches in here, and you've got muscles. What creates the arch, it's not a natural arch, what helps to create that arch are the muscles in your feet. So if your foot muscles are not working properly, you won't have that natural lift in the arch, and you're going to need more supportive footwear to artificially create that arch so that you don't have problems with your knees and your hips and your back. So again, when you're home, especially now that the weather's getting nice, try to be barefoot a little bit more. Even if you're not comfortable walking around barefoot, do some of this seated while you're watching TV or while you're sitting at the table or whatever you're doing, where you can comfortably slip your shoe off and then just kind of do these little exercises. Okay, so we're going to shift gears again, and we're going to go back to the upper body. And with the upper body now, we're going to work with the neck a little bit. Okay, so the neck is one of the most mobile areas of your spine, right? So you've got the neck is from the shoulders all the way into the back of your head. It doesn't. Your neck actually doesn't stop at the base of your skull. It actually goes up into the back of your head a little bit. So what we're going to do here is try to move just the neck in a really conscious and intentional way. So we're going to drop the chin down toward the chest. Don't round through your upper back though. This is just the neck. And then we're going to lift the chin slightly higher than parallel. Don't go way up, just slightly higher than parallel. So we're dropping the chin down and lifting the chin up. So it's a nice, easy movement. It's like saying yes in slow motion. And as you bring your chin down toward your chest, I want you to pull the chin in. So it's like you're trying to tuck your chin into that little notch of your collarbones. So breathe in, breathe out, and it may feel, when you're doing that, it may feel like you're restricting your throat a little bit, and in fact you are, and that's okay. Good. And one more time. Good. And then come back to sort of a neutral position with your head. So from here now we're going to do another little series of movements for the neck. So we're going to drop the right ear toward the right shoulder and then come back up. And again. So just dropping that ear to the shoulder and coming back up. And one more time we're going to drop the ear to the shoulder and hold it there and breathe. So as you keep your ear close to your shoulder here, I want you to turn your head and look down toward the floor. And let your ear get a little closer to your shoulder. Let your neck muscles relax a little bit more. Breathe in, breathe out. Slowly turn your head back to center, and then lift your ear from your shoulder. Close your eyes for a moment. Notice if the left side and right side of your neck feel a little bit different. And then drop your left ear toward your left shoulder. And lift. And drop the left ear toward the left shoulder. And lift and breathe. And the next time you drop your left ear to your left shoulder, hold it here. Breathing in, breathing out. Now turn your head down toward the floor. So you're turning your nose rather down toward the floor. So your ear is close to your shoulder, your nose is down toward the floor, and see if you can relax your neck a little bit more. Breathe in, breathe out. Turn your head back to center and then lift up. Close your eyes again. Breathing in, breathing out. Notice if the left and right sides of your neck feel a little more similar now. Let your eyes open. So now we're going to move down into the next part of the spine, which is between where your shoulder tops are and where the bottom of your rib cage is in the back here. So right about this section. This is it's called your thoracic spine. It's the part of your spine that's got the least mobility because it's the most protective, right? So it connects your rib cage, and your rib cage protects all those really consequential organs in there. So it stands to reason that we're not going to have as much mobility in this area. But for a lot of us, we lose all mobility in that area, and we overcompensate with the neck and the low back, which is, if anybody's ever had a back problem, that's typically where you get it. It's either in your neck or your low back. rarely you'll get something in that mid back depending on what you're doing. So part of the way, or the most effective way to get some movement in this part of the spine is to focus on your two shoulder blades. So your shoulder blades are right here. I'm going to see if I can, right there. You got one there and one there. And they sit on top of your rib cage in the back. And when you come forward, your shoulder blades do that. They come off your back. I don't know if you can see mine. Can you see my shoulder blades kind of come forward and then come back, right? So for most of us, this is our position in life, right? So the shoulder blades are pulled forward off the back a little bit. This has the effect of stretching the muscles in the back, in that middle part of the back, and they stay stretched. So when I go to straighten up, I get some pain right between my shoulder blades because those muscles have forgotten that their job is to pull the shoulder blades together and then to let them come forward. So what we have to do is retrain the pulling together part because we're in this position a lot. Okay, so to do that, we do exercises for this all the time. So to do that, we're going to take the arms or the hands off the lap and just kind of have your arms at a comfortable position here. We're going to squeeze the shoulder blades together. And imagine you could get your elbows to touch back there, right? And then just relax to kind of a neutral position. So we're just squeezing the shoulder blades together and relaxing. So this is the whole movement that we're doing for right now, right? So breathe in, breathe out. And I always tell people, try to be a C student. Nobody has to get an A on any of this stuff. So if your shoulder blades don't work the way you'd like them to work right now, just keep at it. Breathing in, breathing out, squeezing the shoulder blades together. Notice if you have a little discomfort when you squeeze your shoulder blades together. If you do, chances are you're very tight in those muscles, right? So the next time you squeeze your shoulder blades together, you're going to hold here and breathe. Good. One more breath in and out. And then relax that. Let your hands rest on your lap. Close your eyes and draw your attention to the space between your shoulder blades. Just notice if you're a little more aware of that part of your back. And then open your eyes. And for the next little movement for the shoulder blades, so we're squeezing and pulling them back that way and this way. So again, shoulder blades, I describe them as going forward and back, but they actually move up and down a little bit as well. So we're going to engage some of the up and down as well as the forward and back, right, in a little more complex movement. So take your arms out to the sides and up like a wide V, right, and lift, lift, lift. Feel your shoulder blades lifting? Yeah? And then you're going to take your arms down, bend your elbows, squeeze the shoulder blades together like you could touch your elbows back there. Feel the shoulder blades squeezing together. And then we're going to come up, go up as high as you can to let those shoulder blades come up off the back, right? So you can feel them going out to the sides. Breathe in and breathe out and keep moving, right? Now try not to use these muscles up here too much. This is another thing we do. We use the upper shoulder muscles or the trapezius muscles. Some of you might know those as the trapezius muscles. Those are the headache muscles, by the way. Overuse them and typically they'll contribute to a pretty good headache. So breathe in, breathe out. So as your arms come down, squeeze the shoulder blades together so the elbows come behind a little bit. As you come up, let the shoulder blades come off to the side and down, right? How are we doing? Good? Are you breathing? Yeah? Can you feel that in your upper back? Good. Excellent. How about two more? Good. And last one. And you may hear some noise in there, by the way. I didn't mention that, but you might have heard some noise in there. So roll your shoulders a couple of times. Close your eyes for a moment. Take your awareness into the shoulders once again. Notice. Notice what you're aware of there. And then let your eyes open. So was there more of an awareness for some of you after doing that exercise and noticing your shoulder blades as separate part of your back? Isn't that, it's kind of amazing, right? Because we have this idea that, oh, this is just my back here. And when we start to move more discrete pieces of our anatomy, we become more aware of it. And when we become more aware of it, we actually have more motion, more mobility in that area. And I was just talking with somebody before class too, about movement and how essential movement is. And it's the quality of your movement and the quantity of your movement, right? So quality of movement is how you move your body, and quantity of movement is how many parts you move, right? So if I'm moving the same parts all the time, the quality of that movement is, or the quantity of that movement is going to be less than if I can go through and move many more parts. So to stay supple, to stay flexible, and to stay strong, we got to move more parts, and we got to move them more mindfully. Sounds like a lot of work, right? Yeah, right. Okay, so we're going to switch gears from the shoulders now to the hips, right? Shoulders and hips are very similar in some ways because they have a greater range of movement than, say, elbows and knees. Elbows and knees are very similar in how they move. Wrists and ankles are very similar in how they move. So we're going to move over to the hips a little bit. So if you want to come up to the front edge of your chair, have your feet underneath your knees, hands on your chair. This just reminds your shoulders to stay above your hips. Pull the belly in a little bit because that helps to support your back. We're going to do some circles here with this right leg. So just kind of up and around, real easy. Try to do the movement without leaning your body, right? So let's put the foot down for a moment. Now when we lift this leg, I want you to focus on the muscles here in the side of your hip, the front of your hip down into your leg. You're just going to lift and circle. So it doesn't have to be really high. It might be just a little tiny lift off the floor, right? Notice if you're holding your breath. Yeah. Place your foot on the floor and reverse the direction of your circles. Now hips can be noisy. Hips can make big noises. And the reason hips make big noises is because they're big joints, right? So nothing to be scared about if you hear a big snap in there. Without pain. That's the qualifier. Okay, then put that foot down. Notice that hip, if you've woken something up a little bit over there or into the leg a little bit. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. So once again, just hands here, just kind of reminds the body to kind of stay in a nice line. And then see if you can lift and slowly circle that up and around. Good. Excellent. And then foot comes to the floor and we'll switch direction. Yep. Same. Excellent. Okay, bring that down. All right, now we're going to scoot over to the right side of the chair so that your hip is kind of right on the edge there a little bit. And then see if you can take your right foot out. Keep the foot on the floor, the big toe side of the foot on the floor, and angle your toes toward me. So we're getting, now for those of you who are a little short like I am, you might need to get a little closer to the edge of your chair to get comfortable. So see if you can get your leg extended so the knee is straight and the foot, at least the big toe side, is on the floor. If you can get the whole foot on the floor, that's okay too. All right, so from here, press down into that foot. So feel the activation of your leg muscles when you do this. Yeah? Okay. So we're going to take the right hand down by the knee, and then we're going to slowly take that arm up. We're going to bend the left elbow and give a little bit of a stretch here. So put some pressure onto that left hand that's on the chair, and then come all the way back up. All right? So breathe in, breathe out. See if you can keep your shoulder open as you do. Now, if your arm doesn't go up overhead, if you're having some challenge with your arm going up overhead, bring your hand to your shoulder. That's okay, because this is about the leg primarily, right? So breathe in, breathe out. If even that doesn't feel okay, you can always have your hand just on your hip. That's absolutely fine. Breathe in, breathe out. So I'm just kind of showing a multitude of ways to do this. Just a couple more times. So hopefully you're feeling a little bit of a stretch through the front of the hip and the side of the hip. Good. And one more time. And let's see if we can hold it this time, right? So again, if having your arm up is a little too much, have your hand on your shoulder, that's okay. Or even have your hand down by your waist, that's okay as well. Breathe in, breathe out. So your breath will tell you if your arm is up here and you're having a hard time breathing, that's a little too much. Bring the hand here, because this is primarily about the hip. And then come all the way up. Excellent. Good. Relax this knee, and then walk your foot in. We're going to go all the way over to the left. All the way over to the left. So holding on to the chair here with your right hand, we're going to walk that left foot out. See if you can get a good stretch through that leg, inner thigh, outer thigh. Big toe side of the foot is on the floor. If you can get the whole foot on the floor, that's great. If you can't, just do the best you can. Toes are facing forward, so they're going in the same direction as the other toes. And press down into that foot, so you'll feel these leg muscles activate, right? So we want to keep the leg muscles really strong as we take the left hand down by the knee. And then we're going to lean into that right side, and arm comes up overhead and then back. So breathe as you do this. Again, you can have your hand on your shoulder. You can have your hand just on your waist. You don't even have to lift your arm. You can do whatever feels most comfortable for you. So if one of these movements with the arm, if this is creating some pain somewhere, back it off. It's better to go to a place where you can breathe easily and do the movement rather than to a place where you're holding your breath and it's creating some tension in your body. Because again, like I said a little while ago, your breath is what gives your nervous system the okay, right? So if you're breathing easily, your nervous system says, hey, everything's fine. If you're having a hard time breathing, your nervous system says, wait a second, everybody on high alert here. Good. And last time we're going to lean and hold and breathe. So whether your arm is up overhead or hand on your shoulder or hand on your hip, doesn't matter. So see if you can feel a stretch through that left side of the hip, the waist, down into the leg a little bit. Breathing in, breathing out. And then come all the way up. Excellent. Release that. We're going to come all the way back with that foot. Scoot back around to the center of your chair. Okay, so moving on to the last part of the body that we're going to work with this morning, which is the lower back. So we've worked with the hands, the fingers and the toes, the feet, the ankles, the wrists, elbows, arms, shoulders, hips. We've gotten all of that. We got the neck and the thoracic spine, so where your rib cage is, and now it's the lower back, your lumbar spine. Your lumbar spine is similar, more similar to your cervical spine, your neck, because it's got more mobility. There's no ribs here, right? So your ribs end here, and then your lumbar spine starts, and it goes down into your hips. So you've got more movement in that lumbar spine. So for those of us who have some tightness and restriction in some of the muscles in the mid part of the back, we tend to overwork the lumbar spine. Think about how you might turn in your chair, right? Instead of turning your head and looking this way, turning your shoulders and looking this way, you might turn from your low back, right? Because it's easier there. I've got more mobility. So there's some movement in the lower back that we should really encourage, and that is that's sort of flexion and extension in the low back. But what we're going to focus on are the hip bones. So find your hip bones. Right? So if it's difficult to find your hip bones, find your navel, and then walk your fingers out to the sides, and then down until you feel like a bony part, right? So you're going to have your waist, which is very soft, because there's no bones there, and then right below that, you're going to feel the bony part, right? Everybody got the bony part? So then take the bony part, you're going to put it right here in the saddle of your thumb and I can't do that with this here. But you're going to put it right in the saddle here, right? So you've got the saddle of your hands right there. Now using that as sort of a marker, I guess, if you will, imagine now with the saddle of your hands like this, you're tipping your hips forward like this, and then tipping back, right? So tipping forward and tipping back, right? So this is a pelvic tilt for those of you who are familiar with this, right? So we're extending and then we're flexing, right? So can you feel the movement there? So for some people who have some issues in the low back, what tends to happen is they don't use it as much. So they might be doing this, right? That's not using this movement. So this is a part, I said initially that we overuse the lumbar spine, but we overuse it in one way, and we don't use it in the way that we can use it. Now, this is a way that we can use it. Remember what I said about moving all your parts and moving them with intention? So this is an intentional way of moving that lumbar spine. So some of you who've done yoga before, you might recognize this as part of the cat and cow movement for your spine. Yeah, you usually do this on your hands and knees, right? Yeah, this is just a seated version of cat-cow. That's all it is. Breathe in, breathe out. Great. Excellent. And then come back to sort of a neutral position. Release your hands, let your hands rest on your lap. Make yourself comfortable and close your eyes. Bring your attention into that lower part of your back. So we just did quite a bit of mobilization in that lumbar spine, flexing and extending, getting movement in that part of the spine that we often don't use. We tend to overprotect in certain ways. And then doing just a kind of an overall assessment of all the movements we've done here together this morning. So starting with the fingers and the hands. What do your fingers and hands feel like? What do your wrists and forearms and elbows feel like? And your upper arms and shoulders. And we moved the toes in all kinds of unique and interesting ways. And your feet and your ankles, your knees and legs, your hips. We did a couple of movements for the neck, the cervical spine. And then we got some movement of the shoulder blades on the thoracic spine. That's the part of your spine where your ribs attach. We created movement at the shoulders and the hips themselves, and we ended up with movement in the lumbar spine. Moving through all the different joints in your body is essential for movement of the entirety of your being. And taking time to just appreciate the different parts of our bodies that we often don't think about. We tend to lump all together. We lump our feet as a unit. We often think of our feet as just this unit. And 1/4 of all the bones in your body are in your feet. That's pretty significant. And yet we don't think of them as individual toes. We don't think of them as individual joints. We just think of them as the feet. Same thing with our spines. We often just think of our spines as one unit. We don't think of all the different vertebrae, all the discs, all the muscles, all the possible movement. And especially when it comes to the spine, awareness of all of these different parts of the spine helps facilitate deeper breath. So focusing on that deep breath, inhaling and exhaling. Notice if there's a different quality to your breath now, after spending a little bit of time moving all the different parts of your body. And take your hands up to your chest. Take a deep breath in and let it out with a sigh that you can feel vibrate under your hands. Ah. And then maybe take a moment in gratitude to your body for all of its amazing mobility, for what it can do instead of what it can't do. And then if you'd like, maybe opening your eyes and just acknowledging all these wonderful people here. Great. Noticing where you're turning from, right? Are you turning just your head? Turning your whole body. Good. Well, enjoy this rainy day, I think. Yes. Enjoy the rain.